we are recording stream.
All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Italian Village Commission. Our next meeting will be next Tuesday, or our next business meeting will be Tuesday, October 25th at 12 p.m. in this room. The next hearing will be November 8th at 4 p.m. in this room. Can swear in staff.
Jacqueline Lehman, Preservation Planner.
Swear to tell the whole truth to the best of your ability.
I do.
Thank you. Introduction of commissioners.
David Cook.
Shannon Fergus.
Ben Goodman.
Berlin Trot, Paige Schmeling.
Okay, let's see. Do we have a public forum?
I do not believe we have a public forum.
All right, approval of staff approvals.
So moved. Second.
Yeah, let me go find these to see if we need to. Okay, I'm going to list these out. Let me know if there are any abstentions. 982 Summit Street, 274 Cornelia Street, 292 Cornelia Street, 1006 North High, 694 North High, 1006 North High, again, what?
Two sides.
Okay. 236 East 4th, 164 East 3rd, 57 East Lincoln. All right, hearing none, those are approved. All the way back. That was long. Staff approval or list today. Okay, approval of meetings from last minute. Do I have a motion?
Wait a minute, we need to finish the first one with any abstentions and
Oh, so were there any abstentions?
No.
no.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Good.
All right, now can I have a motion for the minutes from last meeting?
I'll make that motion for you.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I'm slowly learning how to do the front of this. Oh, sorry, application 1. Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so our first application is 246 East 2nd Street, and then do we want the applicant to come up and get sworn in?
Okay, can you raise your hand? Swear to state your name.
Miles Lusnauer?
Swear to tell the whole truth to the best of your ability.
I do.
All right. Stop.
Okay, so this is for 246 East 2nd Street. The application is for replacement of rear fencing, and the work has already taken place. The application was previously divided into items A and B for clarity of action at the June 14th hearing. Item B pertains to fencing, which is the application that we have today. So following commission feedback from the June 14th hearing, the applicant has submitted annotated photos to show the location of the fencing and where neighboring fences are located. At the September 27th business meeting, the commission asked if the applicant could supply a list to help clarify which fencing sections are proposed for review, and asked to confirm that which fencing is located within the property boundary. The commission suggested the county auditor may be helpful in showing more clearly where the fences are located from an aerial point of view. So looking ahead, the staff recommends approval of application IV 2206-011B 246 East 2nd Street with conditions. The conditions that a paint or opaque stain be submitted for the fencing. And the staff recommendation is based on the Italian Village guidelines for fencing and enclosures, as well as the general standards for site improvements. And then I'll turn it back to the commission.
Okay, so I believe at the, before I let others comment, well, first, do you have anything to add?
No, I was just going to clarify the pictures and everything going on in there. And then the fencing was the original fencing that was purchased with the home. And then part of it is original fence, and then part of it is replacement. The contractors did the best they could to match the original fencing, but half of that is original and then about half of it is replaced with wood.
And those are both yours.
Correct.
Okay, and then let's just go ahead and go through each since we don't have documentation. Can you show 3 and 4? So 3 is your neighbors?
Correct. Yep. And that's as far as I've owned the home, 6+ years that's been there, the same.
Who
4,
owns this?
So that is the neighbor, that fence right there is the 963 North 6th Street neighbor. That fence was altered within the last 2 years. That new fencing, you can see for some reason they added a door that opens up into my driveway. Why they did that, I have no idea, but that, yeah, that was their replacement.
That's the one that I want to have the top poles cut to be the same height as the fence and not have that. And,
that isn't his fence though.
I do have one pole that's a little bit high too that I mentioned last time we would trim up to. One of the corner posts is a little bit tall. So I do have one that is a little bit
well, I
protruding as
think we're
well.
gonna get the neighbor in here too, who obviously put it up without a permit, and he doesn't understand, the owner of the, doesn't understand why that's a fence. So I think that's worthy of making a code violation on that.
Just to clarify, the commission cannot, just want to make sure. We state that we have not personally code violated anyone.
And is that the post on the corner of 6?
So then this is, yeah, just south of that house. So we all share kind of a community easement driveway with those two. And my fence did match theirs, and so I went to get pictures showing that my fence matched theirs. And apparently they had altered theirs this summer and painted those 2 fences, which you'll see in the next photo.
But those aren't yours either.
Those are not mine, no. So mine is just to the right of both of those photos. But ours had all 3 matched for a couple years. And when theirs was newly constructed, they actually constructed theirs to match my fence.
Okay, so the only fence, can we go back to the first picture under that we are really considering in this motion right now is fence number 2 and a little bit of number 1. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So with that, David,
I'll make a motion to approve.
does anyone have any comments before that? Do I have a second?
Yeah, I have nothing to add. I think that this is all fine and probably should swear him in.
Let's go back to 4. Well, take a vote. But what is the address? That's the address?
Yeah, that's the address of the neighbor right there. And they don't share any driveway or anything with back there, so I don't know why that.
Since you're here, we'll ask the question, would you have any reason to want that to be a gate?
I wouldn't know, but I'm not opposed to it if they want to use it for easement rights. I have no issue with that.
So we have a motion and a second.
Do we want any conditions as far as the, one of the posts was mentioned or something, and then maybe the finish?
Looks like there's 2.
Or the applicant say he would take care of?
It should, if you scroll through one more, it's just, yeah, keep going. Oh, I don't know the last one, but it's the last. And then, yeah, it's another neighbor. Yeah, I guess I don't have that post in there,
All right. Well,
but yeah, it's right in the corner, right there. I can trim it down. It's like a foot and a half protruding.
So we'll make that part of the motion that the applicant agrees to cut the post to the top of the fence height.
and work with staff on stain or color. Okay. Second still hold with those conditions?
Yes, but I did think I saw more than one. When you look at 3, between 3 and 2, there are 2 posts that are above the fence. Maybe even.
Those are on the,
Oh, those are on the.
The blue one's the
Yeah.
neighbor, yeah.
Oh, sorry about that.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
So I do have to submit a stain color for,
Yes.
You can send it to staff, so that same email address, you can just send that if you send it ahead of time, we can include it in the COA. And then if not, you'll just get an approval letter noting that that's the final thing needed to be submitted before we can issue the certificate of appropriateness.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, we're gonna go with, application 22-10-008, 700 North High Street. State both your names for the record.
Abby Stiers?
Dan Haynes.
Do you swear to tell the whole truth to the best of your ability today?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, stop.
Okay, for 700 North High Street, the proposed work is an alteration to a previous approval for new construction. The proposal would include enlarging window openings and configurations with an additional bay for each window opening along the Lincoln Street facade. The updates also include the cornice construction detail and the stucco color. So the cornice detail is proposed to be constructed of hardyboard trim. So the commission may need to discuss whether the proposed material is appropriate or not to emulate the masonry detail and have longevity over time. So just a reminder, there is placeholder signage that's shown in the application. However, signage is not part of the current proposal. A complete signage application will need to be submitted as part of a future application. At the business meeting, the commission had questions about the far east window and it lining up better with the existing windows. The applicant has submitted a revised drawings and renderings to show incorporation to the window to try to better match the window width. Currently, the window is an existing that would be used for an office space on that second floor.
So just for clarification, this exterior view proposed, is that the same as the elevation you just showed us?
We actually have two options in here. One is sort of what we present, what we submitted for business.
Right, this
And
one.
then there's another one that we have where we've extended the window down. So it sort of aligns at the bottom.
Got
So if you go back to that elevation, one of the things that we didn't have correct in our first application was the floor line where that window is at the far east. So there's actually a pretty tall floor where the kitchen is on that side behind that graphic. So where this is shown here, that floor, the bottom of that sill is at the bottom of the floor. So the top of that window is actually only at 5'4".
But would you tell me, please, just for clarification, I see six sections of that window that we're talking about. 3/3, right? Is what's rendered over the door.
We have another one that's shown as the 4/4
Can
as
we,
well.
staff, were you done?
I wouldn't have anything additional to add besides what the applicant has noted, that there's the A and B option. And then one of them, the changes has a door, but there is also an A and B option for the original proposed alteration.
So that's, the option is in the last bay before the window we've all been discussing. At ground level, there's either a door or an operable window.
So we can put this over here, the
There.
door,
Uh-huh.
and then the other option does not have the door.
Right.
Okay,
And we're just proposing that if they do find a tenant that would like to have a second door or needs that for their type of egress, that they don't have to come back through this process, but it can either be the operable window or the door at that location.
David, do you have anything else?
Well, I'm still having the conflict when justifying that image to the elevation that was shown in the previous one.
To that right there?
This time it's 1, 2, 3, 4/4. That window, and they widened the door, and then you go back and look at what was first, not the approved one, but the one proposed at the business meeting. We're still missing that elevation. And it's this back window that was at a different line to the other windows.
Right.
Now, when you see something that's been submitted for this meeting, It looks like it's not square. That looks square. That one looks, I'm trying to understand what's under the window.
All the windows have widened.
Correct. And in this image here, it doesn't show the black band below that window, which in the elevation you were seeing it did. So we would, to get the windows to have the same sill line, we would have to do a spandrel panel to cover the floor line on that back. That's why it appears that this.
That's what we have two options. then.
Yeah.
So that's the option we've
I'll
got.
let somebody else.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that first, and just to kind of unwind this a little bit. So I have no objection with the window being in a higher datum at the back of the building, because it makes sense and there's an existing opening. So the fact that it doesn't line up architecturally with everything else does not bother me, and I think it's inappropriate to get them to move it down.
Okay. Anyone else?
Okay, so just to clarify, all the openings have been widened by a bay, correct? Okay. I agree that the location, I think it's nice that it kind of tells a little bit of a story of what's happening on the inside, that level change happens. So I'm not against the higher sill there. And then I do appreciate, I believe you brought the top of that window in question is in line maybe with the front, the first right bay. Is that correct? Okay. Yeah, so I think that all is fine with me, and the door, I think I'm fine either way, as long as if it's requested functionally, it makes more sense that way, life safety and all that. That makes sense to me. And then the parapet being out of, or the cornice being out of hardy board, I'm also fine.
Does anyone else have comment on the hardy board parapet?
I didn't think we had gotten that far yet, but can we just focus on the openings first? So I'm still unclear about the options that you're proposing here tonight, and give us some nomenclature to identify which is which, so that we can say support A or B or.
Can you just give us the number that you're, something that's definitive? Because I see similar kind of situations with a couple different conditions. So when we're looking at these, the ones that you would prefer are which?
Okay, so I think in both, I think really the options that we're presenting are whether we've got no spandrel or spandrel for that back window. And then in both of those options, we want you to say it's okay for what the tenant wants to do with that other bay with the door, right? So those are, we just wanted to show that's going to be a future piece that could be added.
But also the 4-panel for windows wide on the rear is what the client wants as well.
So which are we calling what? So is this sheet is showing no doorway, right, for the additional doorway toward the east.
If you look at the
Three.
rendering views, they have option numbers on them. So,
Do we have that?
So this is a 3 and a 4 without an opening. A1, is that what we're looking at?
Without a doorway.
Without a doorway.
Correct.
And this is the one that I'm requesting.
and then A2 is the same thing, just the window at the same level as the others. And then B and B1, are those just with the door? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
let's ignore, like, let's just go with A1 or A and say, yes, you can have the door, or no, you can't have the door. Like, let's get this down to 2, because they're architecturally, we have 4 options.
I am okay with the additional doorway, and I guess the next step is we're going to be talking about the width of that opening being 3 or 4.
I mean, we're not splitting this motion into multiple motions, so I think just like say your piece on how do you feel about the width?
I'm just trying to clarify what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
the application as a whole, which has 3 changes, one of which is where the window is, the width, and parapet.
But we're also talking about the width of the opening, right? Okay, so again, the offset of the back window, the width of the opening, and whether there's a door in the rear part of the, so there's 3, and then 4 is the hardy board. Okay. So I'll just clarify my position that, again, I think it's appropriate to have the back window high. I think it's appropriate to, for an opening towards the back of the building. I'm understanding that opening is at the next, it's not the furthest east, but the next furthest east opening, right? And then in terms of the width itself, I guess I'm on the fence about that. I think that the applicant should be allowed to do either. This is not, this is a block building that doesn't have any significant historical value in terms of the openings per se, so I can go either way on that. I'd like to see the detail of the hardy board corners before I make any sort of assessment of that. And so can I find that deeper in the package?
We submitted that with the package. There's a detail of the cornice piece that
So
you
I'll
guys
circle
reviewed
back.
at the business meeting.
Is that
Yeah.
in this package tonight?
Yeah, so it's this detail. It's it's actually going to be covered with the stucco. So it's just all
Which is
the
busy.
stucco.
Oh, I see. So you're
Yeah.
gonna be stuck on troweling around that.
Yeah.
So this is just the.
Yeah, it's just all going to be,
Uh, And so was there any discussion in the business meeting about the cornice itself being a different material or no? So to me, this is not about hardy boards, it's about whether the material changes at the cornice. So that's my, and I think that I am less fond of stuccoing the whole thing, so I would invite the conversation about that. Why? I do not support stucco cover.
I don't mind the window being raised. Having a spandrel panel, I think could be problematic and so whether it's telling the story or just some variations that might add to the character, I think are fine. I have to say that I prefer the openings that are 3 pieces wide rather than 4, but I can quibble over that. I went by and looked at the building again, because I think I was one of the people who said that I felt stucco was a fine option. I can still see on the north side, that kind of tile block that's on there. It looks like it would be difficult to paint and have it look like it's going to, look good with the front brick. So I think I'm still a proponent of stucco on there.
Paige?
I have nothing else to add.
Sorry to do this to you, kid, but what I'm seeing is that we're removing more of the building structure on the Lincoln side. I'm fine with opening up the High Street side. But again, as we start down into a neighborhood street, they've added more width in all the cuts and take down part of the existing building. I personally think the original approved was better than the proposed. I am in favor of the stucco.
And what about the height of the window?
Well, I guess I'll lose it, give up on that if we go back to the approved one. But the proportions feel better to me for the side street to that than rather than taking down the building.
When you say you're in favor of the stucco, are you talking about on the building in general or also on the cornice?
All the way. And I spoke that before.
Okay.
The building across the street, you've got stucco, it's in the neighborhood, it's, I think, an appropriate material.
I think that, I mean, it sounds like there's enough here. Do you have anything to add?
I think the only thing that we would add sort of is, I mean, we appreciate, listening to this again, the wood companies really are interested in making sure that they get this right. And so we wanted to they were really emphatic about sort of the widening of the window to make sure that you get sort of a good inside-outside relationship. That was sort of the impetus of bringing this back. So I think that was the prime concern, and sort of the window up and down was in response to the business meeting.
So basically, to do those operable windows and the windows above, we have to blow out all the wall and put in shear. So we have to put in a lot of structure. So they thought if we have to blow out the wall, let's just make it as big as we can, because that's what they were getting requests from for possible tenants. They wanted the indoor-outdoor experience, even though they knew they couldn't have patio seating. So that was how we got to that point.
Sounds like you're about 50-50 on people feel about that. So did we want to go around again to clarify what?
Yeah, I haven't given my opinion. I'm fine with the window being askew. I'm fine with them being widened, and I'm fine with the stucco. So we could either do a straw poll, or someone can just make a motion.
I'm okay with the 4-bay window.
That's the answer.
I can make a motion for 22-10-008 to be approved. I guess what was the conditions? We approve the eastmost window to be a higher sill level than the other windows with no spandrel glass.
Can you actually just note, can you go over a little bit so we can see what option this one is? Go to the rendering, just back. Sorry, Paige.
No, you're good.
B1. Okay.
So the eastmost window on the north facade, we're okay with proposed B1 elevation. We are also approving the doorway on the north facade within the second to east.
And are you good with it being a doorway or a window?
Yes. We are approving the stucco cornice. And we're approving the proposed width of elevation B1 for each window on the north facade. And approving the stucco facade as a whole for the building. I think that's it.
Is that good stuff?
Yes, I think stucco in general is approved at the last meeting.
Okay, so the stucco parapet specifically, all right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, application 22-10-009, 694 North High Street. Right, can you raise your right hand, state your names,
Travis Sampson?
and you swear to tell the whole truth to the best of your ability today?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, this application for 694 North High Street is proposing a new sign, and specifically to move an existing projecting blade sign from a different location at 772 North High Street to the 694 North High location. The sign would be 11 feet above the grade, mounted on the same type of metal brackets as at the 772 North High location. The sign would be installed via mortar joints with no damage to the brick or masonry. The sign would install exterior uplights on the lower sign bracket with the color to match the gold sign trim. And window graphics are also proposed per the submitted materials. So the projecting blade sign was previously approved for that 772 North High Street location in 2016. And it appears this approval is based on older photos showing similar size signs have historically been present at that location. The commission may therefore need to discuss whether the sign approved for the 772 location is appropriate as well for the 694 North High Street location. So lighting for the new location is proposed to consist of uplighting. So staff recommends using traditional downlighting to prevent light spillage up to adjacent properties. The sign is proposed to be 111 inches or 9.2 feet from grade and reaching 195 inches or 16.25 feet in height. So staff recommends the sign maintain a minimum 10 feet of clearance between the grade and the bottom of the sign to meet city code. At the September 27th business meeting, the commission asked how power will be brought out for the lighting. The commission asked to clarify if the height from the minimum of the 9.2 feet shown on the document is the correct height. Noting that they want to make sure the sign is okay with city code that requires a 10-foot clearance from grade, and believe that not meeting a certain height clearance may otherwise require a variance. The commission asked if the lighting could be switched to downlighting, noting apartments are located above the sign and want to avoid light spillage into those windows. Some commissioners suggested the possibility of using shields for the uplighting to prevent the light spillage to those apartments above, with the understanding that the downlighting may stand out. The commission noted they're also sympathetic to avoiding the light spillage for other areas. The commission noted that the previous location was approved based on documentation that showed a prominent blade sign was in place at that location historically, and that they have not approved any other sign like this extending beyond the 15 feet from the grade height maximum for this building. So staff recommends approval of application ID 2210-009-694 North High Street with conditions. And the conditions being that traditional downlighting be used and that the sign maintain 10 feet of clearance from grade.
Y'all have anything to add?
Just a quick update. He has taken the lighting off the table. He's not gonna do that now, so.
It's spending too much money.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about that. I do have some updated renderings showing the new position. If you guys want that, he's fine with making the adjustment on the height.
Okay, yes, or yeah, I'm fine with that. Can you bring them to staff? Okay, so in summary, the kind of the new, what we're reviewing today is no lighting, but the same sign, but posted in the correct position so that it's, goes along with code.
Right,
Okay.
exactly. So the plates are positioned so that they don't hit anything, any of those stone elements in that pier. But then, and so it's at the right height now.
Okay. Ben?
What, so you're saying it's higher than 10 feet?
It's a little higher than 10.
Okay.
These are the same.
Just as, yeah, otherwise he'd be in that stone element there on the pier.
Yeah, I have no problem with this, this application. I think it's great that you're reusing the sign. I think it's an interesting sign that's more in keeping with the artistic and funky side of Town and Village, and wish we had more stuff that was like this, so kudos on that. I am inclined to continue the conversation that 10 feet above the grade is not necessarily what we should be following. It's what is appropriate to the architecture and historic preservation and pedestrian sightlines. So I would support this sign going lower than you're proposing here tonight. So if that's something you want to pursue, then
Lower the best is what I was just going kind of more with the zoning. But we're just trying to make sure we don't hit those bands of the concrete.
We get a little lower.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I agree with everything that Ben said. To me, it seems high. And I can understand that you might not want to hit that band, but it also looks like it's about maybe 8 inches thick. Do you know the height of that band?
That band right there is, it's about 8 inches because it's, three bricks tall.
Mhm.
One of the kind of tricky things with that sign is, it needs to, the brackets are kind of built in, so they can't, be altered because in other words, we can't change where they are positioned. It needs to stay with the sign. Otherwise, we'd have a little bit more flexibility to try to position it.
So what I was saying is, couldn't this whole sign just come down where that bracket hits here? And that would be lowering it 8 inches?
It could, but if you did, it would be under the 10. It would be less than 10 of the.
Yeah, I would support that.
I thought before we had it at 9 feet.
It was.
Was 2016?
It was approved at 9 because I just looked back at the application, but I did look at the guidelines and it does say 10. So we don't want to have to do a variance, but if you're willing to put into the motion that we can go.
You would have to
9.
get a variance
Okay,
regardless.
we don't
have zoning
Yeah.
ability.
Do that.
Paige?
The commission states that we would be in favor of lowering it. Does
Yeah.
that help them with their
course it
application for the variance?
Sure, but they would need to go for a variance. So
Mhm.
if you want to go for a variance, but if you don't, then the point is moot.
Okay, so that would probably be like another month of an application or so, right?
In the meantime, you have 17 inches to play with, so I'd be surprised if you can't get it down below
Yeah.
that sort of other datum.
Okay.
Let's, Paige,
Yeah, I'm in favor of lowering that if possible below that stonework there. But as far as everything else, I agree with the other commissioners.
It might be as simple as just adding another plate to the plate, so to allow the bolt holes to go where you want them at fairly minimal cost. So you might want to just.
Appreciate the flexibility.
all right, do I have a motion?
I move to approve application 22-10-009, 649 North High Street, as submitted here tonight with the stipulation, with the understanding that the lighting has been removed from the application, A, and that the applicant has the freedom to move the sign down to a 10-foot marker and even lower if it's, if they want to pursue a variance to make sure that it,
And I just got a minimum, a maximum, a minimum height, so 9 feet.
9 feet. It's fine with me. But more appropriate, more importantly, that it's appropriate to the context of the architecture.
Okay, second.
And mounting.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, application IV 2210-010, 1101 North 4th Street. Hello?
Hello.
I have your names for the record. Raise your right hand.
Dean Burlock, Urban Order Architecture. Steve Urban Order Architecture.
Swear to tell the whole truth to the best of your ability.
Yes, I do.
Okay, this application for 1101 North 4th Street is proposing to add a roofed canopy to a side patio. The columns of the roof canopy would be painted steel and the roof to be open with bar joists with a steel deck and membrane roof. Construction would be similar to that of the existing addition, and the existing fence would be reinstalled between the proposed steel columns. So at the September 27th business meeting, the commission asked if the fencing is proposed to be reinstalled all the way across, and asked to confirm the existing edge of the patio and if the patio will extend to the same area. And if there will be a food truck, the commission know they're curious where this will be situated. The commission requested the site plan show where the fencing is now and where the fencing will be moving if it is moving. The commission asked about Greenscape. The commission noted the proposal seems generally appropriate and noted it looks like there will be a lot of water draining to the gutter, and so asked if just the one downspout would be sufficient. Following commission feedback from the business meeting, the applicant has submitted a marked up site plan to indicate the existing and proposed fence locations. The applicant notes that the patio will be expanded to follow the profile of the patio variance that was approved in 2016, including the triangular section shown in the site plan. The applicant is uncertain as to why the existing patio was not built as approved from that time. The food truck will be parked on the existing lot, and the applicant notes there are currently movable planters and some landscaping along the fence that can be moved to the outside of the relocated fence. The applicant has requested a landscaping plan for a future proposal. The applicant notes that there are currently 2 downspouts proposed, one at each end of the 40-foot run, and that they may need to add a third, but in their experience, this has been sufficient. So staff recommends approval of application IB 22-10-010 at 1101 North 4th Street as submitted, with any and all clarifications to be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate.
I think since last time we were here, basically, once we got sort of a conceptual, this idea is okay, then we sort of modify, or we refine the structure a little bit. We push the columns in and cantilevered from the new roof covering to the original building a little further. So those columns are further away. So those are about 6 feet away from the edge of the building. Still maintained our access through to the loading area. And I know there was some confusion about where that existing fence and the new fence is, but we'll just extend the paver patio to where the original variance was. So none of the parking lot or the occupancy or use or any of that changes. And I know there was a question about some landscaping, and we do have those planters that they move around. And then the owner said that they will be planting some hops that sort of ties into the idea of the brewery. Along those columns, the new steel columns for the roof structure. And then I think there was a question about lighting, and we are proposing just some big ceiling fans and some sort of warehouse incandescent metal fixtures inside the structure. I don't know how much of that you want to see, but we're happy to submit that. So I think that's about it.
Okay. Paige?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember correctly the first time we saw this, but I appreciate you bringing in more information like the sizing of those columns. So I see that they're 8 by 8, so I think that's very comfortable feel for this pavilion. And then I also believe at one point, like you said, the roof was kind of sitting on top of the existing lower level. Or maybe I think that connection was a little different, but I appreciate it moving down a little bit to let the existing structure read more. My only comment would be if you go to the plan, that the front of the covering is in line, I believe, with the front facade, so east facade of the existing building. I think it could be nice to give that like a 1.5 feet or so of recess there to let that existing building read on its own. But otherwise, I'm okay with this application.
Can you point to where you're talking about?
She's got the hand.
I was actually referring to the east facade of the lower level building.
Right behind you, could you?
Okay, so this facade and this side of the pavilion are shown as flush, I believe, in the same plane. So I was just curious if this could be recessed back, like even just a foot or so to let the older building.
Oh, I see what you mean, from setback from where the garage, overhead garage doors are on the main, of the original building. So back
Right.
there.
Just so that it kind of gives room to this building,
Oh,
even if
okay.
it was a foot or so pushed back. That would be my only comment.
Commissioner Schrock?
Well, I have to say, I miss that relationship between those two pieces, but I also wonder, you're just trying to make them, so it's a near miss if they are lined up perfectly. And so you're suggesting to move them back. And I don't know if it helps to move it out from it at all, but I could see that just, you know, some kind of shifting of that would be helpful. No, and then beyond that, I too appreciate all the changes that you made based on the small modifications that we had to say, but it looks good.
My comments are fairly similar. I was looking for allowing that front facade to stand a little proud of the new addition, just as Paige pointed out. I also think that it would benefit or feel more natural if on the lower drawing that the proposed structure actually project a little proud of the existing building. Or be pulled back similarly in the way that we just spoke about the other structure. So in other words, to have this kind of precious alignment seems a little kind of tense and maybe unnatural. I don't know, but I just wonder if you'd be open to those kinds of adjustments.
David?
What? Oh, no, no.
No, we
Ready
don't,
to respond now?
no, we wait until everyone's done.
Okay, then let me just continue and say that I think that it'd be nicer if we had a half round gutter.
I'm not going to comment on the gutter, but I like the dialogue that Paige started, and I'd like my fellow commissioners to think we know of at least one other project that is talking about putting some sort of a beer garden canopy up. Do we want them to touch the historic buildings, or do we want them to float separately as pavilions and have that detached, slightly detached view to it? And I think the comments are this project to me is the one that sets the precedence for several other things that we are aware are coming before us or have come before us.
So to address how we engage in the existing building, our columns are 2.5 and 2'8" away from the building. So I think that we sort of already are detaching, and we didn't really want to get closer than that for a lot of reasons. So, you know, the attachment is that steel beam that is up there, which is a, you know, W section. So it's not like we're flushing into the corner of the existing structure, but depending on how people feel about that, of course, we can push that back or, you know, whatever. We're already cantilevering a bunch of these columns so that we can stay away from the existing building. And then as far as the gutter, that gutter is the same gutter that we have everywhere else on the building. So, and I think it's sort of an industrial rectangular thing, and
Oh, okay.
I agree. That would be my bet on that. So I didn't think about.
Well, as far as the detachment thing, I guess I get your argument and would still support the way you're attaching it instead of it free floating. It's just if it's my interest is getting these edges pulled back or pushed out so they're perfectly aligned with faces.
Essentially that like column grid shifting about a foot or so to in so that it's not in line with that.
I think it's more important from the 4th Street facade, but as you said, to kind of pull that back. I'm less concerned from the side street, only because we have this gutter, we have everything else, and they're hitting at different angles too. So,
Well, the more reason it seems to me, my logic, that it would do one or the other. So I would support it being pushed out or pulled back, depending what you feel is most appropriate.
Well, we can't push out because that's a variance. So.
or does anyone else feel strongly? I think we can pull back from the front. We'd like to stay on the side street, like to stay aligned with, but I don't know how people feel about that.
I'd be okay with that because the front side is more the historic building. You get the original Sinclair gas station look of that. And I don't think you'd feel it from the side nearly the same way as being over on in front of Bud Dairy and looking across the street at the whole line.
That changing.
Yeah, I agree, it'd be nice if we had the space to push it out, but my, more concern is that, Fourth Street.
Yeah, and I think deference to the historic building, as you look at these in the future, is probably the way to go, because each situation is a little bit different, but, you know, that makes sense.
So Paige, do you have a magic number of inches square feet that you think would be appropriate since you started this?
I heard 1 foot.
Yeah, it looks like you have enough room from that door, and I'm not trying to like shrink your coverage of the patio space or anything. So I think 1 foot may be reasonable to ask for, moving that, 1 foot back from that east facade.
Okay. We as commissioners talk just a minute, that a 1 foot, would everybody be comfortable in that range so that they wouldn't have to come back if we say, if they accept the motion for doing?
Yeah, I'd support as little as 6 inches, so.
We've had this before us, 3 times, and so allowing them to get
Yeah.
going on it.
So minimum 6 inches.
Okay, 6 inches to a foot, so
Yeah.
that's great, that gives us some room to play, so.
Okay, can I have a motion to that effect?
Sure. Okay, motion for submission 22-10-010. Motion to approve with the condition that the east column grid line is moved between 6 inches and a foot away from the existing historic east facade.
All right, do we have a second?
Second, and I'm with the understanding that the roof line followed that.
Yes,
Right.
yes, sure, not just bigger column.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next we have IV 22-10-011-674 North Pearl Street.
Hello.
All right, can you raise your right hand, state your name,
Randy Black,
and swear to tell the whole truth to the best of your ability?
I do.
Have you ever been at this table before?
Uh,
Great to see you.
Good to see all of you. Just by way of introduction, I've been asked by the owner and the architect to represent them. The architect's daughter is getting married in California as we speak, I think, so he couldn't be here. And gone over everything and met with him. So I'll serve as the preservation consultant for that.
And maybe our two as new council members, we should make sure you know who this gentleman is.
Oh, I know.
Okay. The original head of the preservation office.
Gotcha.
Since that time, I'm retired, live on the family farm where I grew up, and it's a wonderful life. And I've been doing preservation consulting for several years.
Count several.
It's a different reality being retired, sort of semi-retired, but still engaged in preservation. So
Great to see you back.
it's good to see all of you.
Okay.
All right, staff.
Okay, so this application is for 674 North Pearl Alley. The application is in response to a code violation. The work includes removing and replacing existing wood siding. And the proposal is to replace that siding with smooth hardy plank board lap siding. The siding would have a 4-inch exposure and the trim to project 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch above the surface of the siding. And then I also have a proposal to replace asphalt shingles with shingle from the approved list. So both the masonry and the wood frame portion of the building date to the 19th century as documented on Sanborn mapping. Sanborn maps in the county auditor's office show the board and batten siding and along the southwest area of the building covers a former porch. That siding had also previously been added over the brick portion of the building as shown in an early 1980s photo. That has since been removed from the brick portion of the building. For a siding application, the standard is to retain and restore any historic siding if intact And if the siding is beyond repair or non-extent, to replace with new wood or cementitious siding such as smooth, floral, or hardy siding. Any new siding and trim are to be based on the original profile, reveal, and dimensions as determined by the existing siding and trim or by any shadow lines. In this instance, work has taken place without approval and the siding has been removed already. Had there not been original siding, the staff recommendation would be to install wood or smooth cementitious siding with the 4-inch reveal and the 4-inch trim that projects that 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch above the surface of the siding. At the September 27th business meeting, the commission noted that the window outline in the proposed elevation looks smaller than the existing window opening, and so wanted to be sure that all existing openings will remain and maintain the original size, as downsizing openings would not be acceptable. The commission noted it is disappointing given the applicant has been before the commission many times before and work continues to be done without approval. Some commissioners noted they believe wood needs to be used for the new siding. The commission is tasked with making a decision on what would have been approved if the application had been submitted before the unapproved work took place. The existing siding looked like it was in good condition and repairable, would have said to repair existing siding and extend with new wood over the board and batten area. So in response to the business meeting feedback, the applicant has confirmed that the existing window openings will retain their original size. So staff recommends approval of application IV 22-10-011, 67 North Pearl Alley with conditions. And the conditions is to install replacement clapboard siding and trim to match the historic dimensions. The basis for the staff recommendation are the standards of alteration just in general, as well as the Italian Village guidelines, specifically the body of the house for wood siding under appropriate and non-appropriate.
To that end, I have, all the materials have been submitted, and I have them and I can pass them around if you'd like to handle them, see them. The color was mentioned, the paint color has been matched by Creative Paints, and you can see that on this one piece of siding here. There was a lot of damage or rotten siding and siding that I would say was in poor to less than fair condition. That's not really my place to say much more than that. You've got the submittal that's been made showing some of the corner boards and things. The returns, the dimensions, you can see these materials, which I have if you'd like me to pass them around. Maybe that's the best way for you to see. There's a piece of siding here. This is the replacement hardy plank requested. This is the color piece. I also thought perhaps it would be, and it's up to the commission chair and the commissioners, but perhaps it'd be best to sort of look through this from bottom to top. Number 5, which is the replacement of the shingles. That's on the standard shingle replacement list. Then the downspouts, original locations, size to be appropriate. And the windows will remain the same sizes, and the hardy plank you have a sample of, and the returns, which staff has mentioned, 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch, for that seems appropriate to.
When you say the sizes remain, you mean the original historic sizes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, David, do you have anything?
I favor of this. Sure.
Ben?
So I'm understanding staff is recommending wood replacement, clapboard?
Yeah, so at this time, staff had, we don't have any documentation as far as what the wood condition other than the pictures that we have here. And from the photos, the condition is not apparent, and then because the wood siding has been replaced and there was not the opportunity to look at it, I think there's the possibility that the recommendation, if work had not taken place, to repair siding, because of that, that's our recommendation based on the guidelines.
And I'd just be interested to know whether the applicant is is going to be using the same spacing or using some new spacing based on the hardy board dimensions. So
The reveal will be the,
yeah, so I mean, so I think I'd be more supportive of hardy. I support staff's idea of getting wood replacement in there. I guess I'd be flexible to using hardy board if the spacing were right, and I think you would probably need to see elevations to take that next step.
Carla?
Well, I kind of wonder what the precedent is that we said. I mean, I think that hardy board is a fine product and that it looks good, but I don't want to go against staff's recommendation if we are, like I said, setting the precedent that this would be okay. If other people took off wood and then didn't replace it with wood. Sorry.
Paige?
I guess I agree with Carla about the setting of the precedent if we need to move forward with the wood or hardy board, but I think we approve hardy board quite often, so I'm not super against that. And then I don't have any other comments as far as there's no everyone else just said.
And you?
Well, I would prefer to have the wood as it was. This profile shows to the street that we often walk those areas. And so to me, it's a very contributing piece of architecture to our village, and it would be desirable. I am the one that once again said that this applicant consistently seems to go and does their thing without coming before this commission. And certainly this is like 4 or 5 times that I've been on this commission with this applicant having this issue. So let's go back and say, put wood on.
Yeah, so I unfortunately feel the same way. I think that just from a precedent's sake, the minute we say, go ahead and go with your hardy board, everyone's just gonna remove it and ask for forgiveness later, which has been something that we've been recently banging against over the past year or so. And I think that this would just, add to the fire of that. And I want to be sure that we're treating everyone fairly. We know that we're not the final decision maker at the end of the day. The applicant can take this to the next level. Because I understand work has been done, but that's kind of my feeling. Do you want to talk a little bit about the reveal for the question that Ben?
the lap reveal would match the existing. And that's an important preservation component that needs to be always addressed, but that's been communicated. I would say that in the early communications, talking to the architect and looking at email communications, the notion of being able to use hardy plank in this situation was.
So in early communications, there was, staff confirmed that hardy plank is an approved siding material. However, an application was never submitted to be able to review the proposal or the existing condition of the siding.
So just thought that ought to be on record. It's, and it's a question, you're right about consistency, and that's something that the commission has to be very concerned about.
Question, Chair, do we know how much work has been done already? How much siding has been?
It's all.
I've been told it's all in the dumpster.
But no hardy has been put on.
No,
There was a violation issued before the hardy was installed.
So basically, we're just at the tieback that's being shown.
That's right.
Well, I'm inclined to continue this.
Well, what would be the next? What additional information do you?
I think that we need a response as to why wood can't be used. And if there's an economic hardship to that,
Well, that economic hardship would be an appeal.
Yeah, we don't
But-
consider economic hardships. We're not allowed as a body.
The applicant can appeal on the economic hardship basis.
Just trying to get us a little stricter. You do.
Would it be, this is just me thinking out loud, but would a motion approving the use of wood be possible at this point?
I would be willing to make that proposal, understanding also that the applicant said that the window sizes would be correct to the historic one, what was originally there. I think we could move forward if the wood was replaced.
To match the existing.
In other words, I'd be willing to make that motion.
I would support that.
And then, what about the roof itself? It seems to me in the best interest of the building to go forward with that, because that doesn't impact, if there's more to be determined on the siding from the owner and the architect, that doesn't impact the roof, it seemed to me.
Yeah, I don't think that anyone had comments on the roof
Because they
material.
are within the guidelines of approved tiles, so I think that
Yeah.
is acceptable.
Yeah, so my inclination would be to make a motion that supported all aspects of the application, except for the hardy plank siding, and with the understanding that all corner and trim details match existing or historic precedent as clarified by staff.
Hey, if you make that motion, I'll second
So
it.
if that's the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
It's a lot.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the Ritchie Award.
What's that?
Congratulations on the Ritchie Award.
Oh, that was wonderful. In full disclosure, had that not won, I was gonna walk out, because not because it had anything to do with me, but because I just think that's a spectacular project. I don't know if folks have had a chance to go through it, but the owner mentioned that it's going to be, people can enter and will now. It's really spectacular.
It is beautiful.
Really, sorry.
Thanks for coming in.
The other thing, I've always got something else to talk about. I've been thinking about the Amazon forest that's being destroyed. And that relates to the use of, and the demand for wood replacement. And that needs to be thought about.
For the landfill with, the cementitious siding.
Same thing, except when you lose forests, it's pretty serious consideration. So something to think about.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right,
We can do
so,
a public forum on that next month.
yeah, next month. Okay, so next application 6, thank you. 915 or 22-09-015, 5557 East Lincoln.
Didn't that
Oh,
go
that
in
was
staff?
staff. Okay, sorry. I'm not looking at my agenda. I'm just looking at my list on my Kindle. Is number 7 hours?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, 10-012, 347 East Fifth. Hello, how are you? Raise your right hand, state your names for the record,
Matt Canterbury.
Theodore Manfred.
and you swear to tell the whole truth to the best of your ability?
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, this application for 347 East Fifth Avenue is requesting signage, including to install wall signs, several wall signs. I think it's been reduced down to one monument sign. a blade sign, wayfinding signs, 2 plaque signs, and then some additional graphics as well as lighting and to install the gel one sightline windows from the approved windows list. So the September 27th business meeting, the commission noted the proposal is getting better, but the branding situation is still going on. For example, the Stella signs throughout have many different fonts and styles and think this needs to be consistent. The commission noted there's too many signs for the location. Some commission noted that there are still so many Stella signs and would like to see a choice of where the applicant would like 2 signs to be and to remove the remaining extra signage. Some commissioners noted that they are okay with the wayfinding signage and okay with the light panels, but the light panels are also in different fonts and do not match. Okay with the Bella Vita monument sign and light panels, but those are also in different fonts and lead to a jumbled appearance. The commission noted they would like to see both signs simplified and condensed, that there are too many font styles and styles of signage. The commission asked if the Lesso sign exceeds the maximum size per the guidelines and still feels really large and noted that it needs to make sure it conforms to the guidelines. The commission asked to clarify the light bracket mount options, such as those shown on pages 18 and 19 of the materials packet, noting that there are a lot of options on the spec sheet. No applicant can probably tell what is appropriate versus what is not appropriate on the spec sheet and suggest the pole brackets be powder coated to blend visually. And the applicant noted that they would circle the specific proposed bracket and noted the proposed will look like what is shown on page 12 of the materials from the application packet at that time. In response to the business meeting feedback, the applicant has submitted updated materials, including a selection of the exterior plaque light, removal of the brick Lesso signs previously noted as number 3, and removal of the La Bella Vita ground sign noted as number 4, with an updated Stella logo and electric spec details. So the Lesso sign labeled as number 1 sign exceeds the maximum allowable area for a wall sign at 34 square feet. The maximum allowable area for a wall sign is 25 square feet in keeping with the pedestrian-oriented district. The Stella sign number 5, projecting sign. So this also exceeds the maximum allowable area for a projecting sign at 17.5 square feet. The maximum allowable area for projecting sign is 12 square feet. The projecting Stella blade sign appears to exceed the maximum height for grade as well as the top of projecting signs. Are noted that they should not exceed 15 feet measured from grade, and that projecting blade signs cannot be hung so as to extend the bottom of the second floor windows in keeping with the pedestrian scale and scale of the building. Staff recommends keeping the projecting blade sign in scale to avoid historicizing and creating an earlier appearance. The internally illuminated blade sign is proposed for the leasing office Stella sign. If illuminated, signs may only be externally illuminated and may only use light fixtures that prevent light spillage onto adjacent properties. The Italian Village guidelines specify that the internally illuminated signage will not be approved by the commission under any circumstances. A Stella sign labeled as number 6. So that's the wall sign. It does exceed the maximum allowable area for a projecting sign at 31.3 square feet. The maximum allowable area for a wall sign is 25 square feet. The Stella 10 sign. So Italian Village guidelines note that ground signs are acceptable only if no other solution is feasible. The Stella ground sign does exceed the maximum allowable area for a ground sign at 13 square feet. The maximum allowable area for a ground sign is 10 square feet, including any mounting platform or sign base. So staff recommends continuing IV 2210-012 at 347 East Fifth Avenue to allow the applicant time to revise the application to meet the Italian Village guidelines and the city code. The staff recommendation is based on Italian Village guidelines for signage and graphics, as well as appropriate signage and graphics for wall signs, appropriate signage and graphics for projecting signs, appropriate signage and graphics for ground signs, and then the non-appropriate signage and graphics section. And I think that's it.
All right. You guys all have.
Well, in response to the conceptual review and the most recent business meeting, we have significantly reduced the number of requested signs across the project. As Jacqueline mentioned, we have taken your advice and we simplified all of and unified all of the Stella signs to have the same font and logo across the signs that we're using the Stella logo. We've clearly marked on all of the electrical spec sheets for the electrical fixtures, which dimensions or colors or anything that are on those spec sheets. We've clearly blocked those out or arrowed those. And we have reduced the size of our primary Luso and Stella signages that are the inward facing large signs, both the one over the pool area and then the one on the amenity building. Today, we are hoping to have approval on the exterior lighting, on the proposed future mural location, and the windows that are approved on the approved list, and then welcome feedback on the signage so that we can continue to move in the right direction with that.
Okay, so let's hold the signage then and split this into two parts. So let's talk lighting, the windows, and the mural location. David, can you start us off?
The windows, my understanding is, are on our standards, meet our standards, so I would be positive on that. The lighting, the only concern I have, one of yours had a brass finish on it, which historically does not hold up well, and I don't think there's ever any brass fixtures in any of our other areas, so I have reservation about your finish, not your design.
Okay, Ben?
I'm not following. Why are we holding back on signage?
Because they're asking for approval on these three items. They do not need approval for signage yet tonight.
The package is.
So you've revised the package beyond what we're even seeing here tonight.
No, what we've done is there seemed to be less consternation or discourse regarding these pieces than the signage. The signage, there are, as staff had mentioned, there are essentially 3 pieces of signage that are outside of standard that we are asking for, acceptance of. So I believe
I want to get through these 3 and then we're gonna go back and do signage as a separate approval or separate consideration.
Let's circle back around because I'm still trying to get my hands around windows and lighting. So if you don't mind, Commissioner Trott.
Well, I don't have a problem with the windows. I think they're fine. And then in terms of the lighting, I just want to make sure that we really know if we go to, what page is this? It's page 8. So is this,
8 or 80?
what's that?
8 or 80?
8. This one.
Oh, 8, 1,
Is it my mask?
no, it's,
Oh, sign 8.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, page, I was saying page 8. So is this the light that is proposed for everywhere? It's either a single kind of hook lamp or a double on that, but it's the one.
There's no locations that would be a double. It is a single,
always
it's a single kind of gooseneck. That would be the street lighting throughout the project.
And then some of them will have the direction signs on them.
Yes, we're noted on the site plan.
Okay. Do we need to approve things like the intensity of the lights or any of that, or is that done somewhere else?
The lumens, we do not talk about the lumens unless they're excessively bright.
I mean, I think that.
Standard street light, I think, and it's been marked on the.
Okay.
As I look at the project, I mean, there's a lot of different styles of architecture, and a lot of different styles of signage, but we're not going there right now. So I think that I'm okay with the lights as well, and then we'll talk about signage next.
Mural location?
Help me out, which one?
Where is that?
The mural is on, what page is your mural on at this point? Is it,
It was a separate page that was submitted to staff. I'm not sure where they put it in your
location.
it's on the second page of that site plan, the southern portion. It is order number 6 shows on the southwest corner of the east building.
So
Okay,
number 6,
so page 11, it's shaded in yellow.
Yes.
and what is the
There.
yellow? What is the yellow?
We're just requesting a future mural location in that space. We have 2 other mural locations.
Little history may be helpful here. As we came in originally with this, we talked about having a high interest in public art. We have demolished the buildings that were here, and we've saved actually this beautiful, just gigantic gear shaft that we're going to repurpose on the site in the park. If anybody wants to help carry that, they're welcome to. Right. Beyond that, there are 2 or 3 areas that have already been improved, that have been shown in the past with the architecture for areas for murals. We're going to work along with the
Arts Council.
Arts Council, thank you. And this is another area that we've identified might be really good. And that overhang, it's kind of back, it's not too in your face. So we like this as a potential mural location. So this would be in addition to the others.
And so the yellow is showing where the mural would be,
And it would wrap around the proposed signage.
and that sign would still, the Stella sign would still be there.
Well, we don't know yet.
As of
Well,
right now.
Well,
The Stella sign
they're-
is
they're
proposed
asking for it, yes.
as being signage. The mural location would kind of incorporate the corner of the building there and work with the proposed signage.
So it's not this funky trapezoidal thing.
No, that is the space in which we are requesting a future mural that is not yet known. We have not selected an artist or a piece of mural that might be
So
able
it's
to.
not the funky trapezoidal.
It's
It's
not.
10 by
That is
8
just
by
the,
8.
that's just the proposed size and general location of the mural location that we're asking for approval on.
That's the area for the next David Cook signed piece of artwork that we get approved separately.
All right, David, you're off the case.
I have.
Oh, man, I just eliminated Commissioner.
So Shannon, I just have one more question then. So we would actually be proposing a mural before we know what the mural is. Is that a?
That is a common thing we do. We often approve locations and then they come back to us with the specific art. As you've seen, we've been approving a lot of art lately in our past few months, and those are at locations that we had already approved.
Okay.
Although we don't always say it's exactly this dimension.
Yeah.
If we are, then I don't think this is going to be enough.
The location is far more important to us than the dimensions shown. I believe that those dimensions likely be too constraining for an artist.
Yes.
So it's really that corner.
Paige, do you have anything to add for those 3 items?
No, I'm in favor of the windows and the lights. One thing about the location of the mural, I think, is a good spot. One thing that I will say is I think it could be a nice opportunity to work the Stella signage into the mural, or kind of have those talk with each other in some way, because I believe right now that's proposed as painted on. So I don't know if those 2 would compete as they're just called out.
The color of that Stella sign on our proposal is to be determined based on future art.
Gotcha.
We definitely don't want those to clash color wise. But we're also cognizant of the fact we don't want those to be too cozy and make that, and that would fall into, as Jacqueline kind of mentioned previously, that would fall into a large sign jurisdiction, which we don't want to get into. We want the sign to be separate from the mural, but we definitely want them to work together.
Yeah, I agree with the not getting too cozy and that statement there, but as long as they work with each other, yeah. But I'm okay with the lighting.
So I didn't hear any of the other commissioners talk about finishes on lighting,
Does anyone have additional comments on the
specifically to the brass, which will not.
applicant? Can you please just tell us which, I mean, I know that this one,
So this brass, I was just whispering, we were talking about the finish internally, and he was going to look into it a little further. Did you get any information in terms of the wear of this? how it's gonna wear?
It is supposed to be a natural grass that does not have a clear coat on it, so it is supposed to weather naturally and not stay the right finish. That's all I can tell you. It was a fixture selected by the architect, and I know that one of the items that we kind of requested was that it would age correctly and not.
I'm looking at the name on that too. That's not a particularly high-end exterior lighting. I would seriously have reservation.
At the end of the day, would it be acceptable to turn that back into a matte black finish? We'd be fine with that.
It would be consistent, so
It would be very
eliminate all
consistent.
the grass.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, let's
that would be part of the motion, I would think.
So can I have a motion for, so staff, this is kind of like A, so can I have a motion for the A portion of this?
I haven't commented yet, so I'm
Sorry.
trying to understand what's going on with the windows. First of all, is the window drawing further down in the application?
I may be able to shed some light on that. I mean, we came in prior, we had a note on our architectural approval to come back with an approved window. We had actually submitted and actually shown cross sections as well as detailing of brick mold for a higher end vinyl. And we were sent away and told to come back and tell us what we're really using. So we've picked one on the selected list. That's all this is.
And it's on the selected list and
Yes.
staff supports that. Okay.
There's the history behind that. Sorry, that wasn't clear.
And in terms of lighting, I don't disagree with Commissioner Cook and think that, I mean, ultimately the finishes and the maintenance of that and understanding of how finishes change over time is up to the owner in my general opinion. But if you moved it all to black, I think that's fine. The mural location, I'm not that supportive of in its present sort of description here tonight. I think that there could be a value in thinking about the mural across the whole plinth instead of just a sort of shrug the shoulders, wrap around the corner kind of approach. So I think you'll find for me that I'm looking for ways that murals are sort of engaged with the architecture, you know, in the scaling of the surfaces that you're applying it to. So I think it's appropriate to think a little more thoroughly about what kind of mural or what kind of art installation you're talking about before it's appropriate to fully evaluate its location or its scale. Thank you.
Well, would it be acceptable if we said we'd like public art at this destination? It didn't say the length of it or the size of it or whatever.
I think so, because I do agree that depending upon the artist, the application may even change itself. So we like this location. We like the component of it. It's a main entry point to the development. To introduce art at the main entry point is our intent at the end of the day.
Would you be okay with that? Of just saying public art?
We'll have public art at that.
I'm supportive of public art at this
That-
aperture.
Correct.
I'm not supporting public art at the surfaces that you're indicating yet.
Okay.
So if that's what you're asking, I'm going to be a no.
No,
No,
I'm
they were
asking.
saying they wanted to hear that we would approve public art at that intersection.
But that piece is conceptual anyway.
Yeah, it would come back. They just want to know, can they put art there on somewhere on that corner?
They want to know if they have our go-ahead to engage an artist to at least start talking about it. I think that's really where they're at.
We have, again, just from history prior, there's one in the amenity building, there's location there in the entrance of this main AB building. A sculptural piece that was to be restored from the existing building that would be in the northern park. And then since those were all Bridget locations with artwork to come back, our intent was to simply be consistent saying, you know, this would be a great spot in our opinion for it, but that's why we're here. The art would of course come back in its true precedent form at the time. And according to Ms. Pandora, she said that it is very likely that that time is not until the building starts to go vertical because no artist would take us seriously.
So, Ms. Chair, you were starting to say an A, or is that A going to be about the art and then the B, C, windows and lighting and so on?
If you want to split that further and split another.
You're talking about
I was,
A as art, windows and lighting.
yes. And the art can be just at this location, not at this.
Let's
I
use
could
that
make a,
verbiage, art location.
I could make that motion if that's what the chair would like.
Go for it.
I move on application 22-10-012, 347 East Fifth Avenue. We'll call this motion A of that application, addressing the windows, the lighting, and the mural location that we approve as submitted here tonight, with the exception of the clarification that the lighting moved to all black matte finish. If I'm understanding that correctly. And that the understanding is that the art is generally well received to be, if positioned at this corner, but not necessarily on these surfaces and as dimensioned here tonight.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So let's go with signage. Ben, do you want to start with that?
Sure.
Chair Ferguson, pardon,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodman, if I could, from a prioritization of our interests, we have two, what I would consider primary signs. At the Luso project, it is this that faces an internal corridor, not a major pedestrian pathway. The Stella, it is the larger blade sign that I think there'd be an acceptable discourse in terms of the location on the building for. Aside from that, well, there are others that, I mean, if you said yes, we'd be just elated and kick each other's shoes and walk out happy. But all that said, I would just like to guide the conversation. Those are our primary signage areas that we are most passionate about in this application.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I will follow that lead then. I think, by and large, we have come against roofline and sort of vehicular scale signage. And so the Luso signage comes very, very close to being that kind of piece. I'll circle back around to that and say that the 370 located at a canopy is a much more appropriate kind of approach from this commission standpoint, especially this commissioner, as it addresses slow speed vehicular and pedestrian traffic and what they're trying to find in terms of destinations. Whereas the Luso sign is more about branding and trying to brand the whole site, which is something that we have pretty much dug our heels in about. It's not about branding sites. We're a community, or it's a neighborhood, and we're trying to figure out how to make signage streetscape scale, pedestrian scale, and not leaning towards what is popular or appropriate in developments that are bigger and further out from this core of our city than where we are right now. That said, this is fairly nicely scaled and well-positioned architecturally, so I'm on the fence about that. And the fact that it's it's illuminating toward the rear as a halo, correct?
No, there's not illuminated at all.
So it's not illuminated at all. That's a plus. The Stella sign on the next, skip a page. I applaud you for doing something dimensional and unique. But I think that I'm hearing that it's a little strange that we have a totally different font here and sort of identity of Stella. And so that combined with the fact that I'm not really sure what the historic sort of inspiration of this sign is, that I am not sure it's the right thing, especially because we're probably talking about illuminated globes. So if we were to leave it to those, well, I'm going to go on and say that most everything else beyond that is fairly appropriate in my mind. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Starting with the Luso sign number one, I think, I'm okay with the location, but I do agree with staff as far as the overall square footage feels a little bit large and very much, uh, I guess, directed towards cars and slash branding, which is something we try to stay away from. I also wonder if you can see like right next to it on that elevation, there's the brickwork that kind of nods to like a historic older signage. It would be quite nice, I think, if the Luxo sign was more in proportion with that size rectangle, or not like the length, but even maybe if it got a little bit proportionally smaller, so it could match that and stay where it is, that's fine. I see it's marking those doors. It's my note on that one, and then the 370, the signage number 2, I'm okay with. The Stella sign, I agree that I like that you're doing something dimensional. I do feel like it's a little high. It would feel nice, I think, if it wasn't perfectly aligned with the windows, if it was brought down a little bit. And again, just the scale of it was brought down a little bit, but I would be okay with that location and that style sign there. And then the painted Stella, as it's not like a protruding sign or anything, I'm okay with that size and scale. And the other signs I'm also okay with. The number 10 sign, I do have a question. Is that is it a fireplace on the other side?
It is, yeah.
Okay. And it said it has sizing on here, doesn't it? 26 inches, yeah. I guess I'm probably saying the same thing for all these, but it does feel a little bit large for the height that it's at. But I would be okay with what's presented here as well.
Go ahead.
Well, let's start over again. On this one, I find this to be appropriate in a reference to, we have so many buildings in our village. I think of the Virginia, a row of apartments that has the name in the top of the building. You go to High Street, there's JMR, and some of the buildings just initials and words. But it is often on the second floor or the top of the building. And I think there is a precedent for allowing us to do this once. In other words, I only see Lusso talked about as signage one time, where Stella, I think we're seeing 3 different signs, very, very different. So to me, this one is acceptable. The number on the awning is, for the canopy is okay for me. This one really intrigued me. The individual light bulb thing I think would be very arty, and it could work. I like the cleanliness of the Stella here, not the script. The rendering makes it look like it's the size of the window, which is appropriate, but it doesn't seem to have as much black as this piece that's in the middle, the panel. And so I like this one far better. Okay, now coming in close, I understand those are individual discs. I didn't read it that way before. Thank you for enlarging that. I find this artful, and I like the cleanliness of it, and I think it's a nice contrast to the other sign that we've been talking about. So let's go on, just to keep moving due to time. This signage I don't like at all because of the typography. I don't understand how you went from a very clean typeface and then to this. And let's take it one more and go real quickly. And I'd hope these would be whatever the one Stella typeface is, use it consistently on the signposts, on the light posts that we've approved. That one, notice right there, it's just very clean. It's just the 2 and stay that way. And then let's go to the one that says apartments. I don't see any need for having the word apartments under Stella. I go back to what you said. It's the village, it's our neighborhood. This isn't like a subdivision out on Ellie Big Row or somewhere out there, I would argue that we don't need to brand it with apartments underneath it. The residents who live there will know very quickly whether they're paying rent. I just don't think we need to celebrate it. So I want to see Stella have consistency. And you're showing me 3 different variations: a very clean typeface, very simple. You're showing it with script, and then you're showing it with script with the word apartments. And I'd like to see it consistent one way or the other. Do you have any thoughts on signage?
Am I the last one? Sorry.
No, I haven't.
Oh, you go.
Oh, you got me to go. All right. I agree with his, and I've seen many examples of this. I think it works. It still feels big to me, but if you're within the limits, I don't know that there's anything we can say.
It's not.
It's larger than.
Yeah.
How much over is it?
9 square feet, is that correct?
I think it's 25 square feet. That goes in?
It's shown as 48 square feet, so it's.
Oh, it's almost twice as big. To me, and then yes, we set a precedent if we say, okay, this, so to me, it just feels big. I like, you know, the serif font, I think is fun. Okay, next one. 370 is fine. I think overall, I just feel like there's still too much going on. You know, that there's this is very clean kind of font or typology, but then there's the other one that to me, the two of them just don't feel like they belong together. You know, it's kind of, there's this swirling piece that you have in the other one, and then you've got like Times Roman here or something. And it just, they feel so different to me. What is the black piece with the white circles in it?
That is intended to show the interior illumination with a very faint light.
Okay, so it's just, it's not.
They're lit globes architecture.
Okay, I wasn't sure. The sign overall seems big to me. What is the height of it? I can't read that number, 10 feet? I don't know, that feels really large to me. Okay, the next one. And so I just think this seems really big again. I don't like this kind of like branding advertising that's coming out. And then again, this is showing that font, which is so different than the other two, you know, in a very prominent, large kind of condition. I'm sorry, but, and then, you know, these are fine. I think they seem a little bit closer, but that doesn't bother me. That's fine. We can't say anything about the chimneys, I'm sure. I would say the same thing. Please remove apartments. Simplify. 2 fonts that are similar that work together and simple.
Okay, anything else? Any fonts or on the signs? And fonts? I have a lot of, go ahead.
Could you go to the image where the mural site was talked about real quickly? What, you just passed it, that one. Did you ever think of taking the Stella balls that you're talking about projecting on one? Would you have ever thought of hanging that over that overhang coming down and say Stella across there so it keeps the same? Once you have it vertical, once you have it horizontal, but is there a chance to pull that through as a consistent element of design?
Not to this moment, but
I could see it being on that corner.
That would keep it out from the mural being behind it on the wall a little as well.
Yeah.
So it would help kind of delineate one being a sign and one being a mural.
It's sounding like to me, I think that the signage needs continued.
Right. We're not going to resolve.
I would agree.
Yeah.
If, just for the sake of time, if I could summarize a couple pieces just to make sure I'm hearing correctly.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, certainly font types, get it figured out. Be consistent, understand that completely. On the particular sign on the screen right now, so Just from a, when we do come back, just to remind the council, and I'll remind at that point in time that this is really not in view of any vehiculars. This is truly internal, in an internal courtyard. So, and the location we're very happy for, we're happy with. We have intended for this property to be Luso's Italian for luxury, if you remember, to be very luxurious, and that the folks in it are very much in it. So that kind of follows the signage ideology there, with the size, the location, and the internal nature of it. The playfulness, we really love. We've got some good comments from you guys on the playfulness of the Stella sign. We're going to look at the vertical location. We did, so that you're aware, play with it to whether it made sense to align with the windows or to drop the head of the S to the horizontal button, which then basically aligned the bottom of the A with the header of the entry door. So we've played with that. We'll go ahead and move that through to more continuing that ideology.
I'd like to add a couple of clarifications. On this one, especially that there's a precedent to not have anything internally illuminated. So you're going to
Internally illuminated, correct?
correct. Yeah. So be very careful to understand and understand how to pitch the internal illumination. Maybe there's some historic precedent, because otherwise I think you're going to run some trouble there in terms of the way we perceive precedent signage here. The other thing is I just generally, from this seat especially, but I think broadly from the commission standpoint, that we just wonder a lot of times why addresses don't work. They've worked for, 200, 300 years. So it's just start thinking about things that the way people are navigating, what's the purpose of the sign? If it's just to show off or make you feel like you're in a luxury place, it's probably not as much of an interest to us as it is to you. And so addresses and just navigation through the city streets, the way you would do any city street, is kind of the way we think about it.
Thank you.
All right. Do I need to move, do I need a motion for continuance, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you for listening.
Okay, application 8 IV 2210 013 940 942 Hamlet. All right, can you raise your right hand, state your name for the record,
Greg Anglin,
and swear to tell the whole truth to the best of your ability?
I do.
All right, thank you.
Okay, this application for 940 and 942 Camden Street. The proposed work for conceptual is to construct a new 3-car garage slash house accessory dwelling unit. The garage would have a sloped roof, 27 feet in height at the west elevation toward the rear yard, and 19 feet in height at the east elevation along the back alley. The existing home is approximately 37 feet in height. There'd be a 2.5-foot walkway on either side of the structure, and trash and recycling would be stored underneath the balcony. The materials would include wood, board, and batten siding painted white, black aluminum windows, metal garage doors in a natural wood color, gray metal roofing, and composite decking. The locust and mulberry trees would remain, and the water maples and additional invasive species tree would be removed. At the September 27th business meeting, the commission asked about lighting alongside the alleyway, noting they want to be sure of safety, asked about gutters and overhangs, asked about new trees to be planted to replace the trees to be removed. The commission noted that the 2-story carriage houses are not usually as tall as what is proposed. The commission noted that they are in favor of finding ways to appropriately densify the neighborhood, including with accessory dwelling units, but do not see a way for a building of this size to fit appropriately. Commission noted that the proposed building appears almost as large as the house and would start a precedent of the 3-car garages on the alley with this mass. They note that they believe the point of the accessory dwelling units is to find ways to add additional units of a more moderate size to diversify the living accommodations and widen the ability of different folks to live in the neighborhood. But as proposed, this does seem like an excessively large building, specifically to accommodate a 3rd car. The commission noted that if the applicant uses the examples present throughout this corridor and the building is appropriately sized with a 2-car garage and a reasonable unit above the garage, that could work. The commission understands that an additional garage would be nice to have, but the scale does not seem like it would fit with the Italian Village, and a garage for each unit would be more consistent with suburban areas. The commissioners commented that most of the commission has experience living in the area and have had to use street parking. Other comments were reiterating the proposed building is too big, but okay with the style being either traditional or modern. But architecturally, the building as proposed does not justify the size, lacking articulation that other accessory dwelling units in the neighborhood have, and that there seems to be a lack of windows. The photos included in the submission, such as the 919 or 929 garages, are suggested as good examples. The commission recommended removing one of the garages and to make the building smaller and to look to the many precedents around the neighborhood, and noted that they could then approve very quickly or possibly move to staff approval. The commission noted that when ready to submit for action review, the applicant will want to submit architectural engineering drawings. The current drawings are an interesting in between. So this is a conceptual application. So no action is required, and the commissioners should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for a future review at an Italian Village Commission meeting. And the staff recommendation is based on the Italian Village guidelines for new construction and building additions.
All right, what do you have for us?
I was really hoping to get 3 garages so that I can set them up for electric cars. I think that's where everything's headed. If it's impossible, it's impossible. I was hoping for a lot coverage similar to the last, not as much as the last 2 that were built there, but you know, a little bit less than what was built, but similar. The height, I'm down to, you know, the last 3 buildings that were built there, I believe, were either above or at the height that I'm at now. So I think I got the height right. I talked to my architect today, and he said, Greg, if they just won't allow the 3-car garage, he said we could take a 2-car garage, we could narrow the building by a couple of feet, and maybe that could make it work for them. And he felt like that could still work for us. We want to be able to have a small office in there as well as a better carriage house level. So hoping we can figure it out.
Okay.
This commissioner feels very strongly that this is not in fitting with anything on the alley. If you take a view down this entire alleyway, there are no 2-story, 3-car garages on that side of the street. So it's too big. 2 cars, maybe a 2-car garage of a more traditional height would work, but it's not appropriate in massing for what else is already there.
Ben?
I just in general, I don't know how we ask this, but is the height of the garage greater than the home?
No. No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't talk.
Do we know?
Staff, do we know?
I
It
believe
was
the
in the
home
notes.
is 30-something feet in height. The garage, the highest point is 27 feet in height. Is that right?
I think the house is 34 feet by recollection.
It was in your notes that you just read us.
All right, well, let me just proceed here that I personally don't think the 3-car garage is the problem. So it might be that you can arrive at a place where there's a 3-car garage. There have been 3-car garages approved in the neighborhood, but where it couples with an extra deep garage, it starts to get more land, lot coverage. And just the overall presence of the height through this single pitch roof. And I'm just going to quickly say that if you went to a more traditional, say gable roof and 2 dormers to get, some use out of the additional height, maybe it won't be the same. It certainly won't be architecturally the same. But it would go a long way to kind of bring this back to a feel that you're trying to compromise towards what's the most appropriate type of garage back here. The fact that it's less than the home, less height than the home, I think is a bonus. And I think if you went to a gable roof, it's going to even seem like less. So visually, it's, I think, important for you to take a look at that possibility.
Yeah.
I think the other things that go against you on this are the strange window punches. You know, I think you need to consider, you know, other more traditional 1/1 type of windows and pairs of them, perhaps, as opposed to these single fixed windows. Maybe some of them are operable, I suppose. And the strange banding that helps separate some siding from others, is it, you know, these different datums? It just all seems very odd. The balcony facing the yard, I generally think that is something that we should have less concern about. The projection on the alley side seems a little peculiar and probably should be dropped from your concept, from my seat. So just to clarify, there are some architectural peculiarities, the depth of it and the roof line and the window punches are the things I think stand the way for me feel comfortable that this is a right solution.
Okay.
So I agree with David and Ben's comments about that. And you know, I don't know quite how to say this, but I feel like your architect could give you a whole lot more effort in what he is creating for you. You look at this example that is a part of the roof. This is, you know, a traditional kind of home, a more historic kind of home. But the volume of it cuts away. It's not just a big block or a slope block or something like that. And when you have that kind of really simplistic volume, it's not going to fit into the neighborhood. So these kinds of gable roofs with the dormers, shed dormers, and the complexity that you see in this is, I think, what's missing from what he's doing for you. The other thing is, it doesn't have to be a historic style of architecture. Think of Jenga blocks and, you know, something that he could make for you where maybe there are two garages and another garage is shifted back or something. And it again just breaks up this big mass of, you know, this kind of piece towering back in this, you know, garage with, or alley with the kind of smaller and detailed structures.
Okay.
Make him work harder.
No, it's my, I love that design, and that's why I was trying.
I just, so I have to grow up. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say thanks for, I think the, like alley elevation with the different heights, was an added drawing, so thanks, for incorporating that. I agree with Carla that the height and the size of it, if you do want to like take advantage of the space and be able to use that square footage, there could be tricks to offsetting that alley facing facade so that it doesn't feel just like one huge mass. And that is what is really drawing kind of the scale concerns, I would say. But the height itself, with it being lower than the main home, I'm okay with. Or I think it is appropriate. And I did have one question. I noticed that there were doors on either side of the unit, and I think it's showing only like 2.5 feet clear on either side of the unit in the site plan. So I just wanted to bring that up to see if there was that needed clearance there for a walkway on either side of the unit. It's pretty, feels tight.
Right.
Especially if that is a 3-foot door open and out, it can't even open all the way. So yeah, I think what Carla said as far as playing with that, playing with the facade facing the alley could really help you still take advantage of the full square footage that you're wanting, but then cut down on that whole big mass on that street that is different from the context.
Okay.
Symmetry is not your friend.
My comment is pretty similar in that I just think the height is fine as long as it's, you know, shorter than the existing structure. What, we think about when, with lot coverage, it's not about the width or the length, it's about, you know, I think as Ben pointed out, it's the both thing. So we want to make sure that the ADU is smaller than your existing structure. So that's really where we're getting at in terms of a 3-car garage versus a 2-car garage. You know, if somehow you're able to still fit in 3 cars, fine, but it does need to cover less of the lot than it does currently.
I think we've said enough, and this is just conceptual, so we don't need to.
Can I ask one question? If we pitched the roof towards the top, and that would trim a couple of feet off of it, would that be enough of an enticement, or do you really need the?
No, it's less about the height and more about the lot coverage itself, the space of your, so when you're looking at, yeah, like when you're looking at this image here, it's about reducing how much of the lot is being covered.
Okay.
Well, I think some of the commissioners were talking about mass and the perception of mass. So it's possible that changing the roof line, as I mentioned, it would be a more traditional roof line, but maybe other types of roof lines would give you the perception that it's less massive. So it's a reasonable question, but a good conversation to have with your architect. And
okay, great.
All right. I would ask my fellow commissioners, all of you, to go down that alley to see that there's no structure like that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Application 9, 2210-0114 North 6th Street.
See our last one.
It is our last.
See it when
All right, can you raise your right hands, state your names?
Robert Harris and Agril.
And, oh, I didn't swear you, I just looked at you. Swear to tell the whole truth, to the best of your ability?
Okay, I do.
Okay, for the application for North 6th Street, this is a conceptual application involving new construction. The proposal is to construct a 266-unit, 317-bed apartment building with an additional 9 3-story townhomes along North 6th Street. The apartments to the north of the garage on Warren Street would be 5 stories in height with integrated balconies, and there would be an attached 3.5-story garage to hold 368 spaces, including 8 ADA spaces. So at the September business meeting, the commission noted the 670 ramp sits very close to the apartment building and would be interested in ensuring that this is okay with ODOT and the right-of-way in terms of setbacks from a 3-way ramp. Commission wants to make sure that the ramp area is safe. The off-ramp situation is helped by the fact that there are some pedestrian activated crossings now, but the issue is for those unfamiliar, coming off that off-ramp are still reacting, and that there are a lot of accidents in that area. Some commissioners suggested increasing the mixture of uses in the building, such as first floor retail somewhere in the apartment building, noting that there's a lot of residential in this area on 4th that creates dead space on the streets. In general, think the building form is appropriate. Some commissioners asked about a dog park. The applicant confirmed that 2 dog park areas are being built elsewhere in the complex as part of the Phase 8 and Phase 9. Some commissioners are supportive of density, with some commissioners not supportive of density. The commissioners supportive of density noticed that this seems the right item to put in this location with the garage tucked into the hill, and the garage is being screened from the North 6th Street frontage. If the 670 ramp were to be removed sometime in the future, it could wrap the rest of the site with the liner that would continue down, as is being proposed on the east side. The commission asked about the townhomes represented in yellow and if these are narrow enough to get enough light from just one side. For the applicant, this would be like the Hub in Victorian Village. The commission added that the facade of the Hub in Victorian Village could be improved. Note that is not a criticism of the floor plan or stacking, but would want to see a better facade proposed than that of the Hub, and believe that there are windows at the back of the Hub. In response to the business meeting feedback, the applicant has submitted photos showing existing Jeffrey Park townhomes as an example that the applicant would like to use for the proposed Phase 10. So this is a conceptual application and no action is required, and the commissioners should offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future commission meeting. And the basis for the staff recommendation are the general standards for new construction.
All right, what do you have next?
Okay, so this is phase 10 at Jeffrey. So with this this will be the last portion that's submitted here in the near future for the rezoning of the entirety of the development. With that, it's just establishing what's previously been approved, what is built or to be built, as well as the addition of this last phase. So this project specifically, as you mentioned, around 275-ish units with the townhomes included and around 360 space garage. We really went through a lot of different iterations on the site plan, trying to figure out uses, we have a lot of things that we're battling as well with the exit ramp on the 4th, as well as addressing the pedestrian needs along 6th. So we landed on this site plan specifically to increase the density. We added the structured parking, but wanted to be cognizant of the pedestrian interaction with the street along North 6. So shielding that with those townhome units, and then keeping that garage kind of tucked away as much as possible so that it's not visible from the street or from, as you get onto 4th. So really those, where those the apartment units start is kind of where the end of that exit ramp is, kind of creating more of a streetscape. And we did step that back quite a bit from 4th Street to create some sort of buffer to make sure, well, just, I think everybody's aware of the issues of what that exit ramp causes and really the highway effect that it creates with that people kind of slingshotting off of 670 right onto 4th. So with that, the frontage was a big issue for us trying to position this building, and as well as, just the safety alone with that exit ramp coming directly out onto the site. So do you want to talk about some of the massing and?
Yeah, in regards to the massing, we think it's ideal location in regards to where the garage is. It's a very severe area. I think to have a 3.5-story concrete garage built into that embankment, that's really the only usage that anybody really want. We explored in regards to office, things like that. Nobody wants to be down there against this embankment. And in regards to the apartments, we start the apartments after the ramp is gone down to 0, and it becomes then not the off-ramp. So that's why we have the apartments started there. We also, as Matt stated, we set back the apartments a good 25 feet from 4th at that point. Make sure we're not right up onto that area. But we do hold very strong in regards to Warren and North 6th Street, as we probably want to there. In regards to this, we're looking at integrated balcony systems. And one of the reasons why we want that inset is that on the 1st floor with many of these modern buildings and ADA usages, you have a flat building, no steps going up to units and things like that. Well, by us just having our main lobby entrance where the elevator is flat, we can then have steps going up to all of our porches along there. So really give a nice integration when you're walking down the street. It's not one flat level, you have steps up. As far as the townhomes, went into the same as well. We have additional 5 feet from the 15 feet setback. And if you could show the townhome elevations, submit to you. Really large. Okay, you can see about the steps and things like that, the railing systems, that they have a nice area. The one thing we want to do definitely different from the hub garage is that the city, for some reason, took our planter bed system that was against the building and turned it into concrete. I think it was because of the location of High Street. But here, as you can see clearly, we have this tree lawn, sidewalk, and then a large landscaping bed with the steps going up. So we want that to be very soft, very personable, And it'll hide totally the garage from North Sixth Street. There'll be 9 of those units. As far as lighting of those units, a standard apartment is 27 feet in depth. Those are 15. So there's actually more light coming in those. And basically what it is it's taking it where you enter and you have a unit, bedroom, stuff on the first floor. You go up on the second, more lofty, you have living room, dining room, kitchen area. Then the third floor has the same thing, bedroom and bath onto it. So it's really nice style, kind of different with big type. And then in regards to the apartment, we're looking at all flats for that area. In regards to the massing, it shows it just being flat, the roof. That would not be the case. We're studying many profiles. One of the strong profiles we've seen in the area is relating back to the sawtooth, which there were a lot of sawtooths on the Jeffers site. So we want to pick up that in detail. In regards to the back overlooking the garage, you can see there's 2 stories of units. We want to have that so it has all glass and fenestration back there. And it's not just a blank wall as you're coming off the off-ramp. So we're very compassionate. We have 4-sided architecture for the whole apartment area. As far as materials, we use a lot of heavy masonry in Jeffrey. We want to continue to do that. We definitely will have the 3-story townhomes, all masonry. It looks very odd, I think, in those townhomes that go to authority or other materials, stuff like that. It just doesn't seem right. Seems like more townhomes and row homes are all brick on that. Let's see what else. As far as windows, we'll do the same as we have our other projects. Be compassionate to the windows that are twice as high as they are wide, keeping the proportion, but still bringing in a modern flair onto it. So.
And then, so, you know, we will be, with this development, we would be requesting some variances. A lot of them are going to be standard to what mixed use developments in urban areas of Columbus. So like lot coverage area increase, vision clearance from, it is 30 by 30 vision clearance triangles, which just isn't appropriate for this area.
Where are those vision triangles? At 6th Street or?
It would be on Warren and 6th. So these 2 corners that we're kind of looking up at the top.
We still have a normal 10-foot, but 30-foot is really done for like the outer. Like that.
And then setbacks or setback requirements and rear yard reduction.
Paige, you want to start us off?
Sure. I think my first thoughts were the facades along Warren Street and 6th Street of the apartment buildings. I just would call out that I think those warrant kind of a different approach than the 4th Street and off-ramp facing sides. It seems like those could definitely be a little bit more encouraging to the pedestrian walkway. That 4th Street really now, as you go more north, it's really become more of a pedestrian friendly street. And I agree that the safety and the facade along 4th Street right off on that ramp is kind of one that you're not necessarily able to incorporate that as much, but it'd be nice to see a different take on Warren and 6th Street as opposed to 4th Street, because there I think you don't have as high of traffic and you're able to incorporate that pedestrian level more on those sidewalks.
So it'd be more contextual.
Yeah, more contextual and just more, I guess, neighborhood style driven, the scale feeling a little bit smaller than the large, massive scale that I would be more comfortable with on the 4th Street side. So maybe paying some attention to those. I think the as of now, I appreciate how we've scaled down on the east side for the townhouses to, like you've already started incorporating that more of the neighborhood feel. I do wonder how you can play with kind of reveals or staggeredness with those, so it does kind of break up that facade marching down.
If you saw on our existing, we step back 2 feet back and forth on our existing townhomes there. We'll of course want to mix it up and not have it match exactly, but.
Yeah, I think anything that you can do that plays with that scale would be very beneficial to match the like context of the neighborhood feel. Those are my 2 main takeaways on this. Yeah.
So, talking about more specific architectural, I would like to talk about the site plan and some of the issues related to the site plan. I love that you use the word slingshot, that the car's slingshot. That is such a good term. He's probably going to tell you never to say that again. And, but when you look at the site plan and then you look at the rendering, the massing rendering, they kind of, to me, portray 2 different things, and I'm not, the site plan actually looks better, but I am concerned about that. I just had to reiterate it again. And the one thing related to that is, this development is getting huge. And how do the cars travel in and out of this when we're adding 266 units plus in this small area? That is seems to be, I went and looked at all over the site, and it looks like that is one of the most dense areas, if not the densest area that you have. So that's a lot of cars coming in and out every morning and afternoon. What are your plans for that?
Well, one, we have a grid system. We didn't do just a single entrance and exit at their development. We have it first with the light, we have Warren.
There is a light up front, or you're gonna have?
First
Let's get through all the comments and then have you answer questions. Sorry.
Okay.
We'll be here for.
That's fine. Then the other thing that I worry about with this is just, you said you're going to have to get variances, and I appreciate you just bringing that up out of the open, because lot coverage and density is a concern, and it becomes a concern because of, impervious surfaces, and also making sure that there's enough green space to absorb water, to not have flooding that could potentially take place. And then just having enough trees and things so that this becomes an area that it feels nice and green. You guys have done a pretty good job overall, but then over in this area, it's just like, wow, that is really packed in there. And so I worry about that. And I also worry about when you were talking about, well, when we're going to make the rooftop sawtooth, why not a rooftop garden? Why not something that, presents green spaces for people to enjoy and be a part of? And let me see if I had anything else on there. That might be setbacks, same thing, when you're asking for decreases in setbacks, this also means we're pushing the density kind of envelope. So that's my concern.
I apologize, I have to run to a point, but
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Goodman?
I too support the idea of sawtooth. That really can happen. I don't think that the sawtooth that we saw on the east side of the site is necessarily that successful. It needs to be more sincere, as if it were really an industrial sort of sawtooth. But hearing that you're going to be implementing brick, sounds like you might have that opportunity to do that. And I support that idea of brick. By and large, I am supporting your ideology of heavier mass towards 4th Street and lesser and softer kinds of architecture mass facing 6th Street. And your discussion about using some of the other townhomes in the development as inspiration for the tree lawns and the way that was working in the scale, I think is great. There are a few things that I would like to see you study and be more cognizant of. First of all, as you know from the project further to the east, we really pushed you hard to think about penetration of green space that's viewable from the streetscape. And right now, we see this kind of massive figure eight kind of configuration, and it has light wells, but it's really a barrier to any sort of sense of streetscape. Like the other projects, and frankly, and most of them are even right around this, perimeter, open up in some ways that makes it feel like you're breaking down the mass. In terms of the mass, let me also quickly say that your idea of pushing balconies and open spaces into the to the void or into the mass is, as opposed to projecting them out, I think is a good thing, no matter what. Moving on to the garage. I totally get why the garage is here, and I really think the only shame is at the moment is that all the unused space is facing a place where it's just going to collect trash and so forth. So I would encourage you to look at sort of flipping and cranking the garage in a way that you can still get the access from your spot under the off-ramp, but turn the unused space towards the townhome so that it could convert into garden space, indoor sort of outdoor space for those structures. If you were intending to buy some efficiency by putting those townhomes right against the garage, I'm not sure if that's more important than getting quality spaces around this otherwise kind of massive and concrete masonry kind of structure you're proposing presently. So I was about to get up and start reading some stuff, but I think I can probably communicate that the townhomes, in my opinion, should march all the way up to Warren. And you figure out how you start to use this, and there's reasons for this, and that's one is that you establish kind of a precedent of what the streetscape really is in 6th Street. It also responds to some townhomes across the street to the east, and they have the potential of facing the park. So these are all quality sort of urban site planning and sort of neighborhood streetscape things that I think we should all be concerned about. Let's see if I hit the things. So the townhomes penetration. Yeah, garage following the property line of the ramp and converting that space inward. So these are the things that I see. Obviously, architecture is going to impact the way and how it responds to the streetscape. It's as important to us as the architecture itself. So turn some attention to that.
I'll be very quick. Can you go to the plan that was black and white? It shows this one. Notice the blocks that are indicating townhomes. Are those for sale or are those rentals also?
That's not.
I'm just asking the question. And where are any streetscaping ability? It looks like the townhomes are sitting right on the curbing practically. So I think they should be pushed back so we do have a tree band along there.
There is.
The other thing that I'm going to be watching very closely is what's the lighting on top of the garage, because many of the windows of the units look down on that top. I appreciate Carlos' suggestion of some sort of a roof area that the lighting could be under it and the green roof or something, a canopy to come in. If you're on that garage, look at the scale of how many cars are on the top level, could be packed, and think of carrying groceries in December into your apartment building. But the light bleed is going to be an issue on that garage that we're going to watch. And please, let's go back and look at the townhomes on Hubbard. We didn't do those right. And it's just a monotonous wall of doors and windows. Do we need as many windows as you have in there? It's like every inch is punctured with the same size window. There's no variety. It looks really institutional, and let's don't do that again.
Okay.
Get it? But
go ahead.
Yeah, window variability is always a good thing.
Yeah, that is just too much.
So we had a question from Carla. Answer that now. Forget what the question was. I know.
Let me see.
I think it was like the density of the garage, how people will exit with so many at the one area.
Just the traffic in general, how it's going to be handled with, because you have phase 9 and phase 10 that's coming up.
Yeah. Well, we have numerous exits coming up here. We have one that goes underneath the off-ramp itself, which is directly south. So when you come out of the garage, you can go right there to a light intersection. So that's absolutely ideal for that. So it wouldn't be pushing any of that traffic into the community. If it does go into the community, you could see we have numerous streets, 1, 2, 3, 4, that all exit onto 4th. So it's that way. You can see on phase 4 is the upper right-hand side, the garage. That all goes down, which street is that, Cornelius?
Which one are you pointing to?
The upper right garage. So each one of our
Sit down.
are feeding out the Warren, Narada, Garuda, Baden. You see. So if this was like a typical suburban development where you had a concentration point of entrance and exit, just 1 point or 2 points, it could be an issue, but we have exits and entrances throughout the whole major block.
Okay, thank you.
Pardon?
Thank you.
Okay.
Need anything else from us?
David, in regards to the thing, I think it's just the Photoshop, my amateur Photoshop on there. But in regards to the townhomes, we do have a 5-foot tree lawn. We have the curb, a 5-foot tree lawn, a 5-foot sidewalk. And then we have another 4 feet for the landscape bed. And then we're gonna come back in regards to seeing if you were more interested in doing the sidewalk at the curb. And then having more additional spacing going like that. In regards to the multiple units and windows and stuff like that, our actual this was Jeffrey, this is not Hub. Any improvement where that this image is Jeffrey.
You're saying that is it, Jeff?
Yeah, that's right,
Yeah,
Jeffrey.
and I'm saying, do we have to just keep doing it over and over and over again?
No, we'll do a different modification to it. One thing we have is on the first floor and third floor, and also the second floor. We'll need media walls, things like that, so that'll take out a lot of windows, break that up. We can also do where we stagger our windows, they don't have to always stack. And that.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is just to be continued.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Conceptual. Okay.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Staff, is there anything before we adjourn?
No, we got through the whole agenda.
Okay, I have a motion,
I move to adjourn.
Second.
so adjourned.
Aye.
Aye.
You're just, you're the emperor. You're just saying it's adjourned.
Yeah.